Imagine standing in line, wearing the same uniform as your brothers, carrying the same badge, taking the same oath. Now imagine being told you're not worthy of the same respect. The fluorescent lights of the Chick-fil-A hummed overhead as Officer Darren Miles reached for his wallet, his hand trembling just slightly. $12.45. That's what his dignity cost that afternoon in Georgia. While his three colleagues walked away with free meals and grateful smiles, Darren stood there, badge gleaming on his chest, learning a lesson no academy could teach. When does a uniform stop being armor? When does service stop earning respect? The answer came in the form of a cashier's cold stare and a price tag that cut deeper than any weapon ever could. Have you ever been treated differently despite doing everything right? Drop your story below, because what happened next shook an entire community to its core. Darren Miles wasn't just another cop. He was the guy who remembered every kid's name in the neighborhood he patrolled. 8 years on the force had taught him that trust isn't given. It's earned, one conversation, one compassionate moment at a time. His colleagues knew this about him. Officers Martinez, Thompson, and Reed had worked alongside Darren for years, responding to domestic calls at 3 a.m, sharing coffee during stakeouts, celebrating promotions like family milestones. They were brothers in blue, bound by something deeper than friendship. That's what made this particular Thursday feel so ordinary. The Georgia sun had been relentless all afternoon, turning their patrol cars into mobile saunas. Back-to-back calls. A fender bender on Route 41. A noise complaint at the Henderson Apartments. A welfare check on an elderly veteran who just needed someone to talk to. By noon, exhaustion had set in. When Reed suggested stopping at Chick-fil-A, everyone agreed without hesitation. It was their spot, the place where they could shed the weight of the badge for 30 minutes and just be human. Darren remembered laughing at something Martinez said as they walked across the parking lot. Something about his daughter's science project involving a volcano that actually caught fire. The kind of mundane joy that makes the job bearable. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with the lunch rush. Families, construction workers, business people on tight schedules. The air smelled like waffle fries and sweet tea. Everything felt normal. Safe. That's the thing about discrimination. It rarely announces itself. It just shows up casual as a smile and changes everything. The cashier couldn't have been more than 19. Blonde ponytail. Bright eyes. The kind of enthusiasm corporations train into their frontline workers. When she spotted the 3 officers approaching, her face lit up like they'd just won the lottery. "Oh my gosh, officers. Thank you so much for everything you do." Her voice carried across the counter, drawing approving nods from nearby customers. "Lunch is on us today. Community appreciation." Martinez, Thompson, and Reed exchanged surprised glances. The kind of look that says we definitely weren't expecting this, but we'll take it. They ordered their meals with genuine gratitude, thanking her repeatedly. The cashier practically glowed with pride, punching the orders with ceremonial importance. $0. 0 cents. Heroes eat free today. Then Darren stepped forward. The shift was subtle but unmistakable. The cashier's smile didn't exactly disappear. It just froze, like someone had pressed pause on her enthusiasm. She glanced at Darren's badge, then at his face, then back at her register. The silence stretched for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Behind him, his colleagues waited, still riding the high of unexpected generosity. Nobody noticed the temperature change yet. "I'll have the same thing," Darren said, his voice steady, professional. He perfected that tone over years of de-escalating tense situations. The cashier cleared her throat. "Look down." "Right. So that'll be $12.45. The words landed like a gavel. Darren blinked, certain he'd misheard. "I'm sorry. $12.45. She wouldn't meet his eyes now. "For your meal." Martinez turned around first. "Wait, what? I thought—" "The free meals were for them," the cashier interrupted, her voice tight, defensive. She gestured vaguely toward the other 3 officers. "Company policy. Limited promotion. If this makes your blood boil, hit that like button. Let's talk about why this still happens in 2024. Darren felt his colleagues' eyes on him, felt every customer in line suddenly become aware of the uniform, the badge, the color of his skin. Thompson let out a nervous laugh. The kind people make when they're hoping a misunderstanding will magically resolve itself. Come on, we're all together. Same department. There must be some... I'm sorry, the cashier repeated, but she didn't sound sorry. She sounded rehearsed. Resolute. It's policy. Darren reached for his wallet, moving slowly, deliberately, the way he'd been taught to move so nobody felt threatened. His hands were steady even though his chest felt like it was caving in. This wasn't about $12. It never is. It was about being told, in front of his brothers, in front of his community, that his service had an asterisk, that his badge came with conditions. He slid his card across the counter, without another word. They ate in near silence, which was worse than not eating at all. Martinez tried to restart the earlier conversation about the volcano incident, but the words fell flat. Thompson kept glancing at Darren with a mix of sympathy and helplessness, the look people give when they know something's wrong, but have no idea how to fix it. Reed didn't say anything, just pushed waffle fries around his tray like he'd suddenly lost his appetite. The free meal nobody asked for had poisoned the entire break. Darren finished his sandwich, the one he paid for, and excused himself first. Professional, composed, everything a good officer should be. But inside, he was replaying the moment on an endless loop, searching for alternative explanations that didn't exist. Maybe she made a mistake. Maybe the promotion really was limited. Maybe. The mind does this when the truth is too painful. It offers escape hatches, plausible deniability, anything to avoid the obvious conclusion. The drive back to the station felt longer than usual. Darren kept both hands on the wheel, eyes forward, jaw clenched. The radio chatter, codes, locations, routine updates, sounded like white noise. He thought about his father, who'd worked construction for 40 years and still got followed around hardware stores like he was planning a heist. He thought about his nephew, who'd been accepted to Georgia Tech with a full scholarship, but still got asked if he was really qualified during freshman orientation. He thought about every time he pulled someone over and watched their face shift from fear to surprise when they saw he was black, as if black cops were mythical creatures instead of public servants. Does this badge mean nothing? The question circled his mind like a vulture. He'd spent 8 years earning trust, proving himself, going above and beyond to be seen as legitimate. And in 30 seconds, a teenage cashier had stripped all of it away with a price tag and a policy that didn't exist. What hurt most wasn't the discrimination itself. Darren had dealt with that his entire life. What hurt was the location, the witnesses, his colleagues seeing him reduced, diminished, othered while wearing the same uniform they wore. It's one thing to face bias alone. It's another to have your brothers watch it happen and realize their presence couldn't protect you. Darren never posted about it, never mentioned it to supervisors. He planned to absorb it the way he'd absorbed countless other microaggressions, silently, professionally, with a grim acceptance that comes from experience. But someone else had been watching. A customer in line, a middle-aged woman named Patricia Chun, had pulled out her phone the moment she sensed something wrong. She didn't capture video. That would have been too obvious. But she documented everything in a detailed Facebook post that evening. "Today I watched 4 police officers get treated like 2 different species of Chick-fil-A," she wrote. 3 got free meals for their service. 1, the only black officer, was charged full price and told it was policy. There was no policy. There was only prejudice wearing a name tag. The post went viral within hours. By midnight, it had been shared 18,000 times. Local news stations picked it up by morning. Fox 5 Atlanta ran a segment. The comments section became a battleground, some defending the restaurant, others demanding accountability. Everyone suddenly an expert on implicit bias and corporate training protocols. Protesters showed up at the Chick-fil-A location by Thursday afternoon, holding signs that read "Service has no color" and badges and bias don't mix. Corporate headquarters issued a statement within 24 hours. "We are deeply sorry for this incident. The actions of one employee do not reflect our values. She has been terminated, and we are implementing additional sensitivity training across all Georgia locations." What would you have done in Darren's position? Comment below. I'm reading every single one. The cashier's firing sparked another wave of debate. Some called it justice. Others argued she was a scapegoat for systemic problems. Darren didn't comment publicly on any of it. He didn't want to become a symbol, a hashtag, a talking point on cable news. He'd signed up to serve his community, not to be the face of every conversation about racism in America. But intention doesn't matter when the internet decides you're a story worth telling. For 3 days, Darren considered resigning. The attention was suffocating. Reporters camped outside the precinct. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing with interview requests. Even well-meaning colleagues kept asking if he was okay, which somehow made it worse. The constant reminder that something had been done to him, something that required checking in. But on the 4th day, something shifted. Darren was driving past the elementary school on his route when a little black boy, couldn't have been more than 7, spotted a patrol car and waved with both hands, jumping up and down like he'd just seen a superhero. The joy was pure, uncomplicated, the kind of admiration that reminds you why the badge matters in the first place. Darren pulled over, got out, and walked over to the chain-link fence. The boy's questions came rapid fire. Is that a real gun? Have you ever chased a bad guy? Do you know all the laws? Behind him, the boy's teacher smiled knowingly, letting the moment unfold. Darren answered every question, then asked one of his own. You know what makes a good police officer? The boy thought hard. Being brave? That's part of it, Darren said. But the most important part is not giving up when things get hard, even when people treat you unfairly, even when you feel like walking away. You stay because the job matters more than the hard days. He was talking to the boy. He was talking to himself. That evening, Darren attended a community forum the department had hastily organized in response to the incident. He didn't plan to speak, but when the moderator asked if anyone wanted to share their perspective, he found himself walking to the microphone. The room fell silent. 200 people waiting to hear what the officer at the center of the story had to say. I don't want your pity, Darren began, his voice clear, unwavering. I want your awareness. I want you to understand that bias doesn't take days off. It shows up in restaurants, in boardrooms, in schools, in every space where we convince ourselves we're past this. My badge doesn't make me immune to discrimination. It just makes it more visible when it happens. He paused, looking around the room. But I'm still here, still serving. Because walking away would mean letting prejudice win, and I didn't survive 8 years on these streets to surrender now. The applause was thunderous. But more importantly, the conversation that followed was honest, uncomfortable, necessary. The police chief announced mandatory implicit bias training. The mayor pledged to form a community oversight committee. Chick-fil-A corporate donated $50,000 to local youth programs focused on racial equity. Small victories, perhaps, but victories nonetheless. Darren realized something crucial that night. His uniform didn't protect him from bias, but his voice could challenge it. Silence might feel safer, but safety isn't the same as progress. 3 months later, Darren still patrols the same streets, still stops at restaurants during lunch breaks, still wears his badge with the same pride he always has. The incident at Chick-fil-A didn't define him. His response did. He chose to stay visible, to speak truth, to be the officer that kid at the fence needed to see. This story isn't just about one officer or one restaurant. It's about the uncomfortable reality that symbols of authority, uniforms, titles, achievements don't erase prejudice. They just make it harder to ignore when it surfaces. Real change doesn't happen through corporate apologies or viral outrage. It happens through daily choices. Choosing awareness over ignorance, conversation over silence, growth over comfort. When you see someone's uniform before their humanity, what are you really choosing? If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life inspired stories that challenge how we see the world. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because Darren's story is everyone's lesson.